third foundation stone that we must have is trusting God in the unknown. You know, when life is running smoothly, we're tempted to think that we are all masters of our own destiny. You know, we're in control. But when challenges come along, then we realize that we really are not in control of everything. And it's at this point, you know, that sometimes we can be shaken to the core if our trust is in the wrong things. That is when trusting God during the unknown times is so important. The reality is that fear is simply a recognition that we have placed our trust in the wrong source. Our trust cannot be in the government. Our trust cannot be in our jobs. Our trust cannot even be in our bank accounts because they can all go away. They can all disappear tomorrow. But God will never fail us. God is always going to be there. The Apostle Paul, who suffered imprisonment and beatings and snake bites and shipwrecks and all kinds of stuff that came against him, gives us great assurance from our Heavenly Father. Very beautiful verse in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, in verse 10, he says, "He has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and He will deliver us. On Him we have set our hope that He will continue to deliver us." Did you get that? Notice that it says that God has delivered us, He will deliver us, and He will continue to deliver us. So God the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's delivered us in the past. He's going to deliver us now, and He's going to deliver us in the future. We have to have faith and trust in God through the unknown. The fourth foundation stone for us is the stone of God's power and God's peace. And I really believe that those two work together. Those two times that the disciples caught themselves in storms out on the lake, they experienced God's peace after they witnessed God's power. And it's the same for us. While they were in the boat, they were in the midst of the storm, and Jesus said to the storm, "Peace, be still," and the storm calmed down. And then the disciples became at peace. The power of Jesus brought peace into their hearts. And it's the same for us, because we all want to experience God's peace, but we can't experience His feast or fully comprehend it until we really know His power. And we cannot comprehend His power without seeing God's hand at work in the challenges that we face. This week I read a quote from a pastor that said, "When you read the story of the Bible, chaos is never evidence of God's absence. It's the arena in which He moves. It's where He dwells. If that's true then, it's true now." And the reality is this started at the beginning, because in the beginning God created heaven and the earth was formed and without void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. And in the midst of that chaos, or what it seemed to be chaos, God spoke His word, and His creative word went into effect and produced beauty out of chaos. God's power dwells in chaos because that's where we see Him most clearly. His power is most evident when we recognize how powerless we are, when we realize that without Him we're going to drown. I love it when Paul stated that in our weakness, that's when we are strong. It's in our weakness, it's in our inability to change the situations that we're dealing with, that we trust in God's ability, God's power, and that's what we should be doing all along. But sometimes we try to do things in our own strength, and we can mess things up sometimes, and sometimes we do all right with that. But for the most part, God shows Himself the biggest when we are at our weakest, and that's when we can really learn to trust in God. When we think of peace, we typically think of absence of war or conflict, and that's true, but there's really more to it when we think of peace in biblical terms. The Old Testament Hebrew words and the New Testament the New Testament Greek words for peace agree on this. In the Old Testament, shalom means completeness, wholeness, peace, health, welfare, safety, soundness, tranquility, prosperity, perfectness, fullness, rest, harmony, the absence of agitation or discord. Much more than the absence of war and conflict, it is the wholeness that the entire human race seeks. In the Greek word means a state of rest, quietness, and calmness, an absence of strife, tranquility. It's perfect well-being, harmonious relationships between God and men, nations, and families. Biblical peace is more than just freedom from conflict, whether it be as a nation or as a family or as a church setting. You know, we love peace and we thank God for that, but it's much deeper and much richer than that. It is also wholeness and health and prosperity and rest. That means that God's power is at work in us and for us to see that we stand in wholeness and health and prosperity and rest no matter what goes on around us. In fact, a greater definition of true shalom is the destruction of the world's chaos by infusing the presence of God, the only presence that is able to destroy the one who causes the chaos. This is not a worldly battle fought with weapons of war. It's spiritual battle for the souls of humanity. So in the midst of this challenge, in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of this chaos, we will see God's power work and destroy chaos and bring order out of chaos. He's going to take the challenges that you're facing and the turmoil that you may be experiencing, and he's going to make something beautiful out of it. He's going to turn it around, and he's going to provide healing out of disease and provision out of the economic storm. So don't miss the opportunity to grasp the magnitude of God's power in this crisis and to receive his peace. And finally, peace means to be intertwined with God. There is no separation, no cracks where the devil can get into our minds. We are tight with God, and we're able to keep moving forward regardless of what goes on around us.